Hey everybody, it's Sean and Trey with Reactions to the Classics. Before we get started today, we just wanted to invite you to take a look at our Patreon page where we have all kinds of reward tiers, anywhere from reacting to an entire album to songs, and to support us for as little as $1 a month. It really helps us out.
And you can also check out our Facebook and Discord groups down below. Got a great community of people who love music. And all that to say, y'all, let's get to today's video.
Hey everybody, it's Sean, joined again by my son Trey. We're up to the Beatles Anthology Album 1, Part 2. If you missed Part 1, it's in the link below. And Trey, let's just jump right into it.
Let's do it. So when we left off, we had that speaking bit, that part. They just failed the Decca audition.
Yes, they had.
And now we're going to rock with a Latin-tinged song, Besame Mucho. Now, most of this is in Spanish, as the title would suggest.
It is, so I can't lend a lot of knowledge to what's being said.
No, and here, what really stuck out to me were kind of the tempo switches, the Latin chord progressions. That was kind of the highlight. The vocal performance, you could see already Paul, he likes to do a bunch of different types of styles. Yeah, throughout the year, from that to Helter Skelter to the soft ballads, of course. So it was more just interesting in that, you know, not like a standout track by any means, but...
Yeah, I'd never heard this song like in any format, and the only reason why I say that is in 1999 it was named as the most recorded Mexican song ever, so I would have thought somewhere I would have come across it. They kind of took it off the Coasters. Paul loved the Coasters, and so he got his hands on a Coasters version. And this, you know, we really left off on a cliffhanger last time. Trey, you mentioned they did not make it on the Decca sessions. Brian Epstein was telling us about this, and we didn't know what was going to happen.
No,
These guys
I was hoping that it would have turned out well.
So here's what's happening. They're at EMI now, and they're doing an audition for a one George Martin. So that's what this comes from in the next few. So yeah, for me, I mean, it's fine. I will tell you what is not fine on this track or the next one, and that is Pete Best's drumming.
Very sloppy, kind of, and just not that energetic or powerful.
Yeah, it's not great, man. And I don't usually, you know, slam on somebody's drumming. I can't remember me ever slamming, but it's not good. So they made some good decisions, and that's going to take us to the iconic Love Me Do. The song was probably written in 1958. It's a debut single when it was originally released in the UK in October of '62. It only went to number 17, Trey, but in 1982 it was re-promoted, went to number 4, but it did go to number 1 in the US before it was released there. Imported copies from Canada pushed it to number 1. This song's famous because, well, for a lot of reasons, but George Martin really talked to John about playing that harmonica and saying everybody's got a signature sound. Ours is going to be the harmonica with the Beatles, so that's kind of where that came in. So we're still in June of '62 here. Pete Best is on the drums, as already referenced, and I think we both agree it's not exactly.
Yeah, not the best. Definitely the weakest version of Love Me Do that they released.
So then they sign with EMI, and they come in September 4th for their first session of recording, and Ringo's on the drums, and that appears on...
That's on Past Masters. Then they come back a week later because George Martin wasn't a huge fan of Ringo's drumming.
He was not.
They go with a session drummer Andy White on that version, and they relegate poor Ringo to the tambourine, and that's what you hear on the actual record, Please Please Me.
Yeah, it seems kind of cold, huh? Hey, dude, drums are pretty cool. Go pick up that tambourine and get after it.
But in regards to this one on Anthology, just didn't have the liveliness that you're used to.
Much slower, yeah.
And yeah, that drumming just kind of took it down a notch. But then we get rocking with How Do You Do It?
Yeah, this is less than 2 minutes long. George Martin actually picked this out. It was a Mitch Murray song, and he picked it out to be their first single. But the Beatles argued with him about it because they didn't want to do it. They thought it would make them sound not good to the Liverpool people. They redid the mix a little bit. Mitch Murray didn't like that, but they ended up going with Love Me Do instead. But Martin took it to another one of his groups, Jerry and the Pacemakers, and they took it to number 1. This has never been released until it came out on Anthology, so it was a very
big deal. This was finally seen
a treat, and I enjoyed this one. It's one of my standouts on this review of these 21 tracks we're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Same here. It had a more calming effect. I thought Lennon's vocals were pretty soothing, and I think it would have fit well on Please Please Me, maybe replace one of the lesser covers
that's a good
on
idea.
that album. But it is cool that we got to hear it, because this is one of the few tracks on this part that we had never heard, because a lot of them, you know, are live performances of iconic songs.
I'm wondering if they didn't hold it back, maybe because George knew that Jerry and the Pacemakers and didn't want to compete with that. I don't know. Maybe that's why it never got released. But yeah, a nice treat. And that's going to take us to Please Please Me. This is less than 2 minutes long. Rolling Stone 184 on the 500 greatest songs of all time. McCartney and Lennon initially share the vocals, with McCartney holding a high note while Lennon drops down through the scale. Something they learned from the Everly Brothers. They are highly influenced by them in the early years. Their second single in the UK, first in the US. Lennon just said it was his try at writing a Roy Orbison song. So
yeah, and the one that appears here on Anthology is notable because it doesn't have the harmonica.
Exactly.
And you wouldn't think that just taking one instrument out would have such an effect, but it really did. Really took out some of the heart and soul, I think, of this. So just like Love Me Do, I think this version of Please Please Me is just a lesser version of the classic tune we all know and love.
Yeah, and I still like it. I mean, it's still, but yeah, there's just something missing from it. That's going to take us to a 2-song track. It's going to be part of One After 909, and then it's going to be the whole demo. This is in 63, Trey, and they later on go on and record it on Let It Be, which you can go ahead and comment in a minute. I know some of you will. I didn't really care for it that much.
I wasn't a huge fan of it on that either.
On the Let It Be version, it's much more upbeat, and it's got Billy Preston's keyboards on there. But what I loved about this is what I signed up for in this anthology.
Oh, yeah.
Because they screw up, and they're talking to each other. And, you know,
Paul's definitely getting a little bit frustrated.
Yeah, Paul's already getting, it's 1963, he's already getting a little frustrated, a little foreshadowing of what's to come. But
you had Lennon singing it during the guitar solo as well, so it was just neat to see some of these flubs and like this insider from so early on.
Yeah, this is one of my favorites just because of that. It's nothing to do with the song. And then after it, we get the whole demo of the song. And I mean, there's really nothing else to talk about for me on that.
No.
It was fine. You know, it's a scaled back version. I didn't really like the heavily produced version, so I don't love this version, but it's not bad. Right?
Yeah, I actually prefer this to the Let It Be
version. I probably do as well.
It just kind of fits the time of the younger voice, I think, a little bit more, and just the style of music they were employing here, and it was cool how they combined different takes into just making this one track.
Now up to Lend Me Your Comb, which is a cover. It's Carl Perkins' last single on Sun Records. You have Lennon and Harrison singing the verses, and then Paul comes in on the middle eight. So we, got what we know in the early Beatles. We got them playing around with the harmonies and different people coming in and out. This was on one of the BBC shows?
Yeah, exactly. The BBC for Pop Go the Beatles. And that's the only one we have kind of from this time period.
And they said they started singing it in the 50s. It's not a great song for me. What did you think of it?
Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of it either. There's just some energy missing. Harrison's vocals weren't quite, up to par with the confidence
No,
yet.
And we're going to get that soon too.
But it was a heavy rockabilly type of a tune for sure. And then we go on to our next tune. I'll Get You, live from the London Palladium. So this is our first of many live tracks that we're now going to hear.
Yeah, October of 63 is when we're at now.
So this one was interesting. We obviously had heard the studio version, and it's just known for those harmonies from Lennon and McCartney, and the guitar is unique because there's no lead guitar break. It's
mainly harmonica from Lennon and bass from McCartney.
Yeah, so that is unique in that sense. And for this anthology version itself, I was struck by how similar they sounded to the studio version. That was a mark, and you can't go wrong with the shrieking girls here at this time.
I even made a note of that because on this song, more than almost all the other live ones, you can really hear the girls. I don't know if it's because they're in London on some of these other ones. They're not going to be. But and it really goes back to Ringo's drumming, keeping them going,
keeping on the beat,
because there's no way in the world they can hear. So I thought they sounded fantastic with all of that chaos going on around them. Next up is We Were Performers in Britain. It's one of those 12-second snippets. We only have 2 of those snippets on this particular part that we're doing. He's just talking to Rolling Stone, Lennon is in 1970, basically saying, hey, look, we knew we were the best in Germany, and we came to Britain, came back home, and we knew no one could touch us there.
Yeah, got that confidence rocking.
Exactly. So that's going to take us, Trey, to 5. The next 5 songs are recorded in Stockholm, Sweden. Yeah,
during their 63 tour, they made a stop in Sweden and recorded a bunch of these live. And we start with classic I Saw Her Standing There. For me, though it didn't reach, obviously, the album version, this was one of the best live tunes that you're going to hear, I think, on this disc. And it was still fantastic.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think there was a lot less screaming. So I don't know if they did a better job of not picking that up on the mics. Or if the Swedish girls at this time were a little more calm because it hadn't gone crazy yet. We're still in late 63. But yeah, for me too, it was, obviously an iconic song. I thought they did a really good job in the performance aspect of it. Again, that takes us to From Me to You. what I like about it is they're just running this right between song to song. So you get to hear the guys talking and introing the song and talking to the audience a little bit. So the first part of this is the intro to the song. I thought it sounded really good. It was their third single ever. It was their first #1 in the UK.
Yeah, I enjoyed like you mentioned, the nuggets for me were the lead up where it was cool hearing Paul, hey, this next song is from our new LP.
Yeah, it's like,
just putting yourself in that time. And again, solid performance. And then we segue that to the next song, Money. That's What I Want. Of course, this was written by Tamil founder Barry Gordy. And what I enjoyed about this is, again, just kind of that loose, fun type of vibe that they were coming in. I do enjoy when the Beatles do the Motown type of songs, for sure.
I do too. And I mean, through a lot of this, it's just reminiscing back to John when he was just such a powerful force in the group. Not that he ever wasn't, but as time went along, everybody kind of evened out somewhat. Just to hear him in his younger days just absolutely hammering out the tunes. It was fantastic.
Really showed that gusto and power that he had. And then we're transitioning into another cover, this time from the Smokey Robinson and the Miracles track, You've Really Got a Hold on Me. And this is unique too because we really didn't hear Lennon and Harrison go with the dual lead vocals that often, and so for that reason it really stands out to me. I mean, it doesn't stand up to the one on the album or the original Smokey version. The Smokey version is always going to be the best for me, better than the Beatles version and all of them.
Yeah, and it's on the Rolling Stone top 500 song. Like, they did a really good job when they picked songs of picking iconic,
the great one. And I know whenever they chose this one, Smokey Robinson himself was very flattered, like, oh wow, the white groups are now starting
it was a big deal back then
to choose me. So that was neat. I enjoyed it.
And now we're going to close out what they call disc 1 if you have the 3 CDs. Roll Over Beethoven. They're still in Sweden. It's obviously a Chuck Berry original. It's a top 100 song of all time according to Rolling Stone. And I always liked what Chuck wrote it because he was going to turn over music, man. It's rock and roll and Beethoven's going to turn over in his grave. George performs this, and man, I love George, right? We know what George becomes. Man. All Things Must Pass, one of the great albums we reviewed in the history of this channel. But his performance here for me, it's pretty rough, man, because he's not ready yet.
This turns back. I mentioned it earlier. That confidence just wasn't quite there yet. And you could see why with Lennon and McCartney just sounding so good live. It still wasn't quite there yet. So this is definitely the lesser of the Stockholm performances. And then we go now to disc 2.
We're going to start this off with She Loves You. The next 3 performances were recorded live at the Prince of Wales Theatre in London on November 4th of 1963. This song is obviously iconic. It has a Yeah, Yeah, Yeah in it, Trey. It's the best-selling single of the 1960s in the UK. And I will tell you, the sound on these next 3, the quality, not their performance, but the quality is a definite dip from what we had in Stockholm. I noticed it wasn't nearly as clear.
It's crisp, but we didn't have the screaming fans, which
no, we didn't.
That was my note from this, because usually when you hear the song, they're going crazy. But since it's in a more upscale, obviously, type of environment, they weren't going crazy, and I'm sure the lads were happy to perform where they could actually, they
didn't know what was
we can
in
hear
store for them.
Hear each other. And then we go to the next one, Till There Was You. Paul notes here that this was by the group Sophie Tucker. It's comical, obviously, because Sophie Tucker never performed this, but she was a larger woman, so that was kind of where the joke was going.
And everybody laughed, and you probably wouldn't do that nowadays.
No, but a little bit of that cheeky British humor there, and again, for the performance itself, it was solid. Yeah, it
was fine. I didn't think it was a standout on here, but it was okay. That brings us to Twist and Shout, my favorite performance on here for a couple reasons. One, I love John's performance. If you remember back to when they did Please Please Me, this was the last song they recorded in the marathon session. They only had 15 minutes left of studio time and had to go in. He had to drink milk and put cough lozenges in. John did to get this thing done, and he recorded on one take for the album. But on this, it's great because it's John talking at the beginning. And he says, those of you in the cheap seats, start clapping for us. And those of you in the other seats, rattle your jewelry. It was so great.
I love that.
It was John just putting a zinger in there. And man, he sounds fantastic.
Oh, yeah. He just oozes charisma here at the start. And you could just see why he was so so beloved. As were, I mean, Paul had those moments on here
of course.
too, but this was my favorite little snippet.
Yeah, man, I listened to
here.
it like 4 times. I just wanted to hear that snippet.
And as for the live performance, definitely one of the best on this recording up to this point. And then we're gonna shift gears a little bit, and we're gonna go to this boy live on Two of a Kind. And here, this was Lennon's attempt to write a song in the vein of like a 50s Smokey Robinson. Smokey coming up again.
Again, man, they loved him
as a big influence. I was again just struck by how great the harmony sounded, because these are very intricate 3-part harmonies here, and to pull that off live,
they're doing this
was
live.
impressive.
There's no tricks going on here. So I thought that was awesome. And Two of a Kind is just a variety show, a comedy show, which we're gonna get to in a minute. Yeah, and this had much better audio than the previous one. Then we're gonna go to the iconic I Want to Hold Your Hand. It's number 16 on Rolling Stone's 500 Greatest Songs of All Time, and also the first one they recorded using 4-track equipment in the studio. It's the Beatles' best-selling single worldwide, as well, sold over 12 million singles, and I thought they did it great justice here. I thought they sounded fantastic.
Oh, me too. All the performances from this are pretty darn solid, this Two of a Kind show, and it's just an absolute classic. I can listen to I Want to Hold Your Hand any day of the week. And then we shift to the longest snippet.
Yes.
They're talking to the comedians of this Two of a Kind variety show, and we're not British. I mean, I don't know who these gentlemen are. Some of you probably
I have their names. It's Morecambe and Ernie Wise. It's Boys, What Was I Thinking? And it's a 2-minute, 6-second interaction.
And we have some nice, they kind of take little subtle playful jabs at Ringo, asking
they do.
Where's Ringo? And then they ask John, what's it like being famous? And John coming again with the cheeky remarks like, well, it's not like it was back in your day, essentially calling the guy old, or at least that's what I interpreted it as. So go into performing a song together, the 50-second Moonlight Bay. And again, this is more just kind of fun, relaxed, comedy type tinge, where the host in here are going like twist and shout and just saying stuff in there. So I thought it was a nice little snippet in here to include and really see the men behind kind of the craziness of this Beatlemania.
Yeah, exactly. I enjoyed it as well. And that pretty much does it, Trey. For this one, we will be back with tracks 42 through 60. We're going to finish out Anthology 1 on our next part. If you liked what you saw, please hit that big red subscribe button. And until next time.
We will. See ya.